All right, we are back with Warcraft 3 Teen Girls Squad. It has been quite some time since I've done any recordings, and these games are actually close to 2 weeks old on top of it. So, a little older. We got 2 games to cast, and we will try to remember what was going on in them. Looks like it's Ricky, myself, and High Zealot against Q, Higgs, and Faloli. So it's 3v3. So Emus are too busy playing Final Fantasy 14, and Steak is too busy cooking his chicken legs to join us terribly often. I have intense facial pain, and you'll probably notice the audio quality has taken a sharp drop as I have now been forced to live in an apartment which is very, very small. I no longer have the benefits of things like not living directly adjacent to a highway, and the acoustics is abhorrent, whereas in the previous location I had access to a acoustically treated ceiling and a large set of cloth curtains that were behind me. So it wasn't a fully kitted out studio, but it was a hell of a lot better than the average room. Now I'm in a very, 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 very small room, very small, not even half the size of the last one, and the acoustics is horrendous, and you can't put anything on the walls or the ceiling. So even if I had the $10,000 or more it would take to actually set up a acoustic setup in here comparable to the last place, I can't actually do that. So yeah, it's pretty bad times. We were playing this, moved at the beginning of April, so we were playing this while I was there. I believe there are several points during these games I have to go AFK to deal with my grandmother and other stupidity, as it's just pretty much been non-stop chaos all year round. And of course, when you have a move on top of it, we had to throw out pretty much everything we owned. So actually getting here, we still had too much stuff left over. We threw out all of our furniture and most of our food and stuff, so there was still too much left behind. So I was constantly running around because I'm the only person who can do anything, right? So that meant that playing these games was pretty difficult. I don't remember really anything about them at all. I know I'm doing something very different in this game, but I don't think I play really anywhere near my normal for any of these games at all. So keep that in mind. I got 2 games to cast today. Ricky is going Arthas, and I think takes I don't know. I know he's got Chemical Rage, and that's about it. Whereas I actually went the Anchorman, and I believe I even took Devotion Aura as one of my first... Yeah, Devotion, Brilliant Sword of Frost Nova. Ace Cass is spanked immediately into the game. High Zealot will go pretty much standard AoE caster. Loli, I think, takes Impale and some other stuff, and Q will get Cold Arrows and maybe Entangle. In fact, if I'm not mistaken, everyone in the entire enemy team gets Entangle, which is now a skill shot. HKS did remove several abilities, including Hex and Reincarnate, since Hex contributed nothing to the game, and with the time to kill being increased substantially, overall, Reincarnate was something he felt that really wasn't helping the game's health at all. So Loli is sucking High Zealot. There is Frost Nova as well, and Wards. So it gives you an idea what his build is. Pretty mana intensive. There has been small changes across the board beyond that, but even he doesn't even remember what they are, since beyond these casts, pretty much nobody really communicates to him anything they really want to see in the map. He does have it on his mind to do more considerable work with the items, but doesn't want the typical item recipe system that these maps are plagued with, seeing as that doesn't really contribute anything to the game whatsoever. It just makes it frustrating. But it feels like there should be some way to merge lower yield items and, you know, have a system to have a system to get to high tier items and work up to them. So something like a recipe system, but without all the grossness associated, right? Because like going through a whole bunch of tooltips to figure out what needs what, you know, having to like externally manage shit like I had to do for like League of Legends, or memorize a whole bunch of things, it doesn't improve the game whatsoever. So the implementation process isn't a big deal, but just knowing like the most elegant way to actually set it up is kind of a thing. And this is one of the big reasons why I was so reluctant to really get into item systems when I was making Lulled as a Legend, is it was the exact same thing. I didn't want to build that recipe system either, but I hadn't really devised what would be a good idea yet. So Ricky has been sitting up here with no health for a long time, and Ishkis has died twice. I'm trying to chase him around all the towers, but Ishkis went Incinerate first on a melee hero. So, yeah. The other two aren't on the mini-map. Yeah, so people have been coming down here and trying to heckle me every now and then, but I just hit them with Frost Nova and they run away because they usually came in with very little health. So I just didn't really have to respect anybody in this game at this point. I took Brilliance Aura first, but there's not really a lot of physical damage on their group, although I have to admit, I don't remember enough about Warcraft 3 if Cold Arrows actually transforms the damage type or not. I don't think it does, but don't quote me on that. I don't know 100%. Yes, that's Slave Train. So I had been watching Ricky up there for a long time, and I was going to go up there and do something about that situation. So since HKS can drain, I don't have any way to stop this. I don't have stuns. I do have Critical Strike and Frost Nova. So the early level drain is not very strong. I believe in some of the past games I did not cast, I went life drain early on. And in kind of like mid game, it was all right. I'm not sure about that miss. I don't think I have evasion. Yeah, Frost Nova is leveled up, so it's definitely quite dangerous. I think that's the most damage I've taken out of any of the exchanges here. So I've claimed two victims so far. That's the third time HKS has died. Trying to remember other changes in the map, but I don't really recall. I know HKS was messing around a little bit, or at least thinking about messing around a little bit with a revival system for the buildings, because we had run into the very rare bug where a building couldn't be revived, and he was trying to change some stuff. There is silence. The items that gave like eternal silence, I believe they're long gone now. I'm leveling up Devotion Aura, even though it doesn't really do too much. It is still armor that helps you with creep damage. If you're taking creep damage, and HKS is still physical and melee, and Q is a little bit of physical as well. I was not honestly sure what Q was trying to do in this game with Cold Arrow, because it didn't really seem like he had kill threat. He just would slow you forever. It's very possible he gets like Drunken Haze or something and overlaps it. I'm not sure about that. I didn't really have any build plan in mind. I was just doing whatever. Oh, Isola was trying to kill the coin. So I left, and immediately we're back to doing this again. The people doing creeping on the side of the horde are... like, Q is not really set up for creeping. He has Mana Shield and Cold Arrow. Not exactly what you would think when you picture somebody slaughtering creep camps. Whereas I, on the other hand, can just spam Frost Nova, and the Devotion Aura does help a little bit. Plus, this hero has that explosion chance. Ricky running out with 40 health. A level 1 damage spell of any kind in HKS would have killed Ricky like 3 or 4 times by now. But Life Drain, unfortunately, it does take a little bit to tick, and it's not really that great at low levels. So I was just, yeah, just kind of snaking around, swinging and anchoring people. Not really a super high octane intro to this. And High Zealot's also having a little bit of a slow start too. He is almost half of my creep score despite going Carrion Swarm. Although only now is he leveling it past level 2. So, and that's with me going across the map to kill Ricky on top of it. Ricky has 4 CS. So even though he's been in lane longer than anybody, he hasn't gotten really anything for it. I guess killing HKS. I'm pretty sure me killing him depletes his gold too. HKS has some movements. I don't know if he took engineer. I don't think he might have taken engineering upgrade because I see the +5 there. That would be, oh yeah, engineering upgrade was changed, but I think that was a while ago where the movement speed was reduced a little bit because it was really quite strong. I knew that they were probably creeping because we weren't seeing them on that much, and I knew that neither Q nor Thigh Lolly had any kind of sustain other than some life drain, which wasn't enough to kill the later creep camps at all. So the shield here does look like it might save Q. I decide against diving the tower because these minions were chasing me so far. So I did deny their creep camp. That does slow down the experience gain and the creep upgrades they would have gotten from killing it. With HKS having Incinerate, it's not a huge deal, but the innate abilities do level up with you now. As you level up, they will gain in strength. I don't know if they go to level 10. I think it was level 7 or something. So Blink will get a little bit of range, and Incinerate, it did feel more useful because the damage values for it did go up. It's not going to be a nuclear amount, but if it's just me slapping him sans spells, he might actually beat me despite the armor because of stacking it. So at that point, I don't really want to trade with him. I kind of want to like hit and run. So Frost Nova to level 5 is quite a spike in damage. And I believe I was going to take Critical Strike to help deal with the mana shield. And just in general, because I was already like kind of like gonna be mostly slapping people in the game. Actually, I believe I'll end up taking Poison Sting or Slow Poison, whatever it was called, which is really funny. I don't think I get that for a while, but when I do get it, it is a very strong ability in the right circumstances. So I'm not really looking to kill him here. If he stays for a long time, which sometimes he does overcommit like he is right now, then I can, because evidently, despite his speed increase, Frost Nova does let me trade a little bit better and chase and punish. So you have to be mindful of that, as the lower cooldown on that is quite significant. So at this stage, I'm starting to become quite fed. In comparison to the other players, I have 2 kills. Nobody on the enemy team has any. And Thaloli is not doing too bad on the creep score, all things considered, and I think he might have some creep kills on top of it. But at the rate they're going, he's going to lose some of that to dying terribly. Yeah, there is Entangle. So early Infernal, but not able to secure the kill, it looks like, unless he gets creep blocked. Oh, the Infernal wasn't focused on him. This is a familiar sight down here. So I went over here. I prioritized taking creep camps on the enemy team in a circumstance like this. I was actually looking around to see if anybody was over here, because I think there was an uneven number of minions here, but that might have been from the previous scuffle or something like that. There was at least 1 or 2 circumstances I came over to a creep camp and some were missing, so I went hunting for anyone who was there, but I didn't see anyone. And then the Dragonhawks attacking the Bonerman is kind of common, as well as the Erdl. And I believe HKS did make the Erdl's Devour ability able to target area units, but it doesn't use it on them or something like that. Because LMAO Warcraft free, and meanwhile, Q is a build that could punish Ricky because he has so many forms of slows. But Ricky is just like constantly running around and can give himself a movement speed increase. Now Q has no mana. Q might actually... Well, Q got the kill, but Ricky didn't, so there's probably a slight amount of gold difference between that. Although I did get Brilliance Aura, I tend not to level it because usually damage is a higher priority. And since I don't bother getting any early items, I can't really sustain spamming Frost Nova very much, even though that's my only spell. So I can get like 1 kill out of it, or I can push, or I can creep, and then out of that I'm kind of at the end. Oh, I did get Slow Poison fairly early. Okay. This is really funny because it's kind of similar to what Q is doing, where Q has Drunken Haze, and I speculated that Critical Strike might bypass the miss chance a little bit, kind of like it does for Evasion, but I don't know for sure. Either way, he stacks Drunken Haze, which is a slow effect as well, on top of Cold Arrow. The problem, of course, is that Q doesn't do any damage. Whereas in my case, I can stack Frost Nova, which does do damage, with Slow Poison, which does a little bit of damage. And the slow effect is way stronger. It's much stronger. And I didn't realize there was going to be that kind of interaction. I just wanted another source of slow and ambient damage aside just from being able to spam Frost Nova, because I really, again, I wasn't intending to stack super heavily into spell damage on this. I wanted to try something a little tankier than normal. Meanwhile, we're kind of seeing the story of just the general rate of clearing and the difference between the two groups right now, where Ricky is just kind of there and exists and isn't getting really any CS at all. But High Zealot's catching up to me now, especially since I've been roaming around a lot more. And although the enemy team does have some, a lot of them haven't even been in a lane too much. Like, Q's been constantly messing around with the camps without really a lot of success to show for it. And the spells we do have, like Carrion Swarm and Infernal, when they don't kill minions, still pushes the waves quite hard. So we are slowly pushing creeps into them here. And this is a little dangerous on my behalf because I don't know at this point if HKS has some kind of CC or not. And I don't have kill threat on him at this point. I'm kind of just trying to use the towers to delay, and I was stealing the coin. So there it is. There is the slow effect. He literally almost comes to a dead stop. When the two stack, when I saw that, I realized how insane it is. And Ricky was here, so I let him deal with it. Ricky has Acid Bomb, which, again, not going to get him too many kills, but it does end up pushing the wave. It also helps me if I am there, but generally speaking, I like watching Ricky die. So this map is kind of, like, it feels kind of really, really snowbally when you only have a small number of players. Because the build differences in the players absolutely gets exposed a lot more when you just have a few people. Fire Lily does have Infernal now, which is going to help them clear these. It's going to push their upgrades up a little bit. If they can keep doing it, then their minions will eventually start out upgrading ours. But in terms of like the actual PvP here, they don't have really any kill threat on us at all. They don't. And every single time they're going to get caught in lane by this, only really Thigh Loli has offensive tools and Q has defensive tools, and it's gonna like HKS is gonna like scale, right? But without the early spiking power that I have through Frost Nova. So I haven't really been dominating the game at this point, but it is getting to the point where they like only like Thigh Lolly could realistically try to fight me at this point. And that's if he plays very carefully and very safely and pokes in and out, which is not something he typically does. So it's going to be something that like if I misplay or whatever. So I'm actually trying to exchange slow poison between the units sometimes. But it didn't really seem to make a difference. The dot didn't last long enough. It didn't do enough damage to allow me to trade it between the units and get it rolling on both units. It doesn't stack or anything to my knowledge, so it just trying to maximize the damage didn't really help so much. Now that said, in our group, Ricky is basically just free money for them if they can actually catch him, but other than me killing Ricky, he hasn't died too often. They're not really capitalizing on him at all. They're not picking up the free money. So this might be a time I die actually here. Because he has every CC in the book. And as well as Frost Nova. So I hadn't really run into Thigh Lolly until that point. I didn't actually really know what he had. But I should have probably expected he had the exact same things he always gets, which is just damage. So once I saw that, I was like, oh, okay, so they do have someone on their team that is dangerous. It is Thigh Lolly, so all I really have to do is just play around that. That said, of course, it's too early in the game to do anything about most of the kills. It seems like Q might actually punish Ricky, but he missed Entangle. So Hyzel's been leveling Stormbolt. It can be challenging to use in the minion waves. The minion waves actually do make you fairly safe against that. I like that Thigh Lolly was blocked by the minion waves because of slow and slurped up the slow. But he ends up... It's honestly hard to see most of the player colors on the minimap, especially him. It's easy to miss him. So that Stormbolt was missed. He walked right towards Hyzella, but went around the Infernal, so it missed. Meanwhile, after an extensive amount of time and Ricky begging to be killed, Q finally kills him. It took a very long time. So I think I was looking at the skills. At this point, I was realizing that certain abilities were missing. Because I was looking for Infernal, or not, Reincarnate rather. Because basically the easiest way to deal with someone spiking you down in this circumstance is just to have Reincarnate. Because again, there's only a few players, so Reincarnate becomes exponentially more powerful when it's just one person giving you trouble. Because you just get back a huge amount of power budget out of literally nowhere. The only thing that really fucks you up is if there's multiple people waiting for CC, and they just recycle all their CC on you again. That's why we entered so many games where everybody would get Reincarnate, was specifically because of that interaction. And especially removing Reincarnate definitely leads to better game health in the long run. So instead, I took Doom. Now, the summons have been changed a fair bit, I believe, since we last casted, where HKS is trying to make them more useful. You gotta more them up at once. And they also scale over time a little bit as well. Game time, that is. But there was some bugs because Blizzard can't really touch Warcraft 3 without breaking it even further because it is a Jenga pile of hacked up shit from 1997. And gameplay constants apparently was amongst the things that were fucked up, and it's almost like HKS is going to die to turtles here. No, he might escape. He does have the mana to permanently drain tank them. This brings me back to World of Warcraft and Warlocks. And HKS also, I believe we've seen it before, but the Doomguard has been buffed a fair bit. This is only level 1, so he's not amazingly strong, but Cripple is really strong. It always has been. It doesn't last very long in Heroes, but you apply Cripple plus Slow Poison plus Nova, which I think may happen at some point in this. And that already insane slow is even dumber. But more importantly is the Rain of Fire gives me some more AoE wave clear. They're reasonably tanky. The War Stomp is very nice to use, so I can clear out these Hydras. And I don't think I had no money. I couldn't even get a barrel head or anything at that point, so... Oh, I think he finally did update the barrel head that it has the bonus to base health that it should have had before. HKS just nimbly belly dances across all the CC and starts sucking Ricky, but running back was kind of a mistake because he can't actually kill Ricky. Skill shots in Warcraft 3, yeah. It's definitely an acquired skill. I think you could make some arguments about collision sizes or projectile speeds, but I haven't really tried to use them too much myself, so I cannot really comment on that. All I know is that it is a little weird to use because of the origin of the projectile, but I think that was fixed up a little bit. So I just kind of like move casually over to the next set of Hydras. Again, not tremendous amounts of damage, but it is better than it is by default. You can't have two of them up. That's 2 sets of CC to cycle. And you can cripple, which reduces damage. Everybody blows every ult on here, which was probably really unnecessary. So they also last quite a long time. Most of the summons have a longer duration now. I did suggest having an item that gives an aura, especially one that you can upgrade. And you can have that aura just only apply to summons just to make them stronger. So as opposed to scaling up your stats, you could invest towards scaling up the stats of summons and making them stronger in late game especially. So I did get a head barrel that time around. Not even really going for the damage at this point, just becoming tankier. And Q has no idea how much trouble he's in if he actually gets close to me, because Drunken Haste doesn't matter when you are slowed forever and can never get away. And my damage is not very high, but I do have a Frenchman. So it's just kind of, it's one of those games that kind of turns into the slow push, where it reaches a point where you can't really deal with the push anymore. Like, there's like 4 sets of strong summons in here, just dealing ambient damage and tanking, and it's quite early to be looking at dealing some damage to their base, but while this attack may not do too much, it is going to deal with a bunch of the forward defenses. And it kind of looks like we might be starting to creep up on an upgrade advantage at this point, especially since we just did 2 full clears on the top. So I didn't really want to go near, again, Thyloli was the one who had potential kill threat on me. But he does have level 3 Infernal, it's just he threw it over there somewhere as opposed to on Ricky and just kind of calmly walk away. But we destroyed a lot of the forward defenses here. So I'm not sure why he chooses to go the Orb of Corruption early on when he has offensive damage in spells. I think it gave Ricky a tap. And yes, slow poison does apply to allies. So if you want to, you can just keep killing Ricky because he can't get away from you. I think this will be one of the rare games Ricky buys some items. But you can see with the money right now, he doesn't have too much. I kind of stopped leveling Devotion Aura as well. I believe I was just working on Critical Strike and Frost Nova at this time. Now there's going to be a counter engage here. That does hit. There is 1,000 stuns. I don't even bother really chasing him, but Loli has no mana, or yeah, no mana. And once I get close to him, he is pretty fucked. This Infernal does do quite a bit of damage though, so you don't really want to be tanking that plus a ward plus the minion wave. And then I'm going to get creep blocked on my minions on top of it. I believe slow poison applies to the Infernal, but it is a level 3 Infernal. There's not really too much point in attacking it if I don't have to. Ricky can have it. That is the case with Devotion Aura. It does help a little bit. It'll be a little while before I'm actually like tanky. Now, Q does have a bong. That's going to really help him out with his mana regeneration that his build is so dependent upon. But he still doesn't really get too much in the way of actual offensive damage, much less wave clear. And Tangle is kind of his wave clear, which the damage on it is not very high anymore. So, especially since it is a little bit of an AoE. It's a line trace, kind of like Impale, just less stupid. So as far as minions are concerned, we are definitely ahead in upgrades at this point. Not a tremendous amount, but the range is +1 on that, and we have like complete dominance over actually clearing the creeps of the stage. So that's kind of like, you know, the progression for the map is supposed to be, if you control the creep camps completely, then your minions just get to a point where the upgrades are just that far ahead and insufferable. So, coupled with the fact they don't have really that much wave clear at all, and when they end up fighting as group versus group, it tends to be really bad for them. This permanently pushed situation for them is just gonna reach a stage where they can't do too much at all. HKS did get Endurance Aura, which will help a little bit. It would actually help Q quite a bit, but on his own, he doesn't really have any threat, so it would have been better for him to wait for Q to show up, but I mean, even then, it's like, I don't think Q really has the disengage options to really deal with that, other than Ensnare. If he, oh, he did take Impale, so maybe with Impale and Ensnare, he can actually try to like peel, and then they can counter-engage on like Ricky in particular. Hyzala is not very likely to be that close, but and killing Ricky, you know, never the wrong thing to do. Ricky dove into the Warlocks and got himself killed. Meanwhile, this is a familiar sight. Down here, Loli split pushing, never really a bad idea. He does have Flame Strike. If we look at the kills for the minions, he has crept to the highest. I have completely stopped growing in creep kills, because I have been doing pretty much non-stop creep camps instead. So minions are the only thing that gets contributed there. So he is probably the richest. I'm assuming he would be the richest in the game, but it's in large part because I think Hyzala has been in waves that are already pushed. So we're kind of like feeding him minions to kill. He's just kind of slurping up all the minions that go towards him when we push the lanes, especially in top. So that's kind of like where all those kills are coming out from. He transitioned away from doing camps to just trying to hold the base, which he could turn into a substantial advantage if he can get some items like the bong and maybe a little bit of tankiness. He could carry their team. He's definitely going to be the one that they're going to be looking towards to actually dealing damage. But it is a difficult spot for him, even if he plays really well, because just between me and Hyzala, there isn't any way that they can really kill us without Thyloli being able to get a good engage. On High Zealot in particular, who has no tanking at all. Whereas for me, other than slow, I don't actually offer any real CC. I slow people down and punish them and they can't get away. So anybody who's in a bad spot and is out of position or alone in the lane, I'm going to run them down and I'm going to kill them, pretty much guaranteed, no matter who it is. The only way out is if I get like chain CC'd and then they escape somehow. Either they're getting blocked through minions or whatever. But since we're always pushed against them, the chances of that happening are actually generally quite low. I'm not spending much time in the waves. So what's going to end up happening instead is just me killing these creep camps is just going to gradually shove the game into our favor more and more and more as the creep upgrades continue to push into our favor. And then when I do go into the base, I'm going to come in with a stack of items that's going to give me a massive advantage over them, and I'm just going to be able to force their base down. Now, the thing about Thyloli is that he's not really using Infernal to look for kills. Again, Ricky is not really being punished for all of his shenanigans, and High Zealot ends up killing HKS, who is over here. And High Zealot, I don't think, has died at all either. I guess we'll see in this first screen. Oh, it doesn't show deaths, does it? How many kills do they have? Q has 2, which I believe is both Ricky, maybe? And then Thyloli killed me in the middle earlier on, so... yeah, they're not really like abusing Ricky in particular, who he can escape thanks to Chemical Rage, but he should have died so many times, especially early on. But even like right now, Q has a Bong and Mana Shield and CC, but is unwilling to dive Ricky underneath the wave. Like, he's giving Ricky way too much respect. Now Ricky has used Chemical Rage, but he just escapes. Maybe Q didn't have the mana for anything else, but he wasn't even auto-attacking anymore. I feel like Q kind of wants like Bash or something like that, maybe. Or Critical Strike. Like, his build is very mana hungry, even without him casting spells. With him casting spells on top of it, it's kind of hard, and he never took Brilliance Aura either, right? So his mana regeneration is just going to be a constant issue. So I actually grabbed a God Orb when I was down there clearing bottom. I went for the God Orb in this mostly due to the attack speed, actually. Just kind of like an all-arounder on the stats, but also just to be able to prioritize attack speed without taking the cat's paw, because I really didn't care too much about the agility at this point. I wanted to be a bit more beefy, but then I wanted the attack speed. So Ricky came back and then it's just chased away again. Even Blink might be useful for Q at this moment. It feels like Q has like an endgame idea in mind, but he is absolutely useless early on. So again, Thyloli's Infernal really doesn't accomplish anything. And even without the Infernal from High Zealot, he was dead. There was nothing that was going to stop me from killing him, unless he got really lucky with CC or something. So Q has shown up. The Stormbolt goes over there. High Zealot is paralyzed, and Q is paralyzed. That's what I mean. It was a good idea to go for High Zealot, but Q didn't have any way to actually secure the kill. And once I got a hold of him, he was just not escaping the anchor. So it's HKS's turn to try to do something. He does have, I believe, War Stomp, but I keep my distance from him and use my summon to control him. And High Zealot picks up that kill with a good ensnare, entangle, followed by Carrion Swarm, and there may have been a cripple that went out, as well as the Stomp. But these guys here are spell immune or spell resistant, I think, so can't cheese those as easily. But now we're at the stage where we can start forcing down their base. Our creep upgrades aren't really that high, but I will back off at this stage. We've already done good damage. That Lily will be back up, and I wasn't really high on health anymore, so we're just gonna take this advantage to take their jungle while they're dealing with all the minions and the other bullshit in their base. It looks like they might lose the Yiffing Foundry over here. Meanwhile, Ricky is over here dying to minions. So here's an interesting bug where the Doomguard became very small when I made it off of one of the Murlocs. So I think like scale came off the Murloc onto the Doomguard. I might have used it right when it was about to die or something. I'm not sure. But he's so small. I'm not sure you can even fix that. That's a weird bug. I don't think I've ever seen that before. Warcraft 3 and rescaling is very weird in general, so I really wasn't surprised to see that bug. Ricky is slowly pushing middle up. He still doesn't have any items yet. His gold is not really much higher than it used to be, all things considered. That Lily still actually holds the minion kill advantage quite a bit. There was a Deep Lord Revenant. There's a name for you. Deep Lord Revenant. Medson's just like flicking off all the power words on that one. Just like he's flicking his bean. And yeah, two ancient hydras. I was like, yeah, I didn't have my Doomguard anymore. And I was actually a little worried about getting ganked. I might have been able to clear it, but the way it was being pushed back, and there was a chance I was going to get ganked. So I was like, screw it, I'm going to go back. So that Lily did get a God Orb as well. I don't really feel like that's the best item for him. A bong would have been better, but he may not have been able to get to the bong, so he just grabbed whatever was posted. So he blows all his shit. Actually, he also has Incinerate, which is kind of funny. And not bad with the God Orb in that case, but kind of the same issue Q's had where mana is going to become a little bit of a problem. And all of this shit's based on spell damage, so. The God Orb's not really going to help him stay up with his Frost Nova and everything like that. I did level up the Brilliance Aura to... Well, maybe it was him who maxed it out. I don't think mine is level 10. So we clear this out. They rebuilt their base, but they're being pushed by advanced minions right now. We're at 3-3 on the creeps versus 2-2. Ricky just died over here. See what I mean? They finally punished him because it was Thigh Lily who had offensive spell damage, so kind of just walked up and sat on him. Yeah, they're starting to get outscaled in creep camps. Killing the Hydras from Thigh Lily will help them out a little bit, but if anything, they only just keep up with our current rate of growth. It's not really a big deal unless you get to the point where in some of the games we hit a stage where you're looking at like 5-5 or 6-6 versus 3-3, and then you are just constantly pushed. Even then, I feel like this Doomguard is the wrong side. They're also still only level 1, so I wasn't really upgrading them too much at this stage. Even Devotion Aura is still level 3, so I wasn't like swimming in money, and what money I did get was going to items at this point. I wasn't really doing too much in the way of upgrading skills. So I did get an axe. So the axe is really like the best thing I felt I could have done at this stage. Otherwise, upgrading Doomguard might have been a good idea. So Thigh Lily is here. The Devotion Aura does actually help against his wards, but he doesn't micro the wards. So there was some spell damage there from him, but I just kind of like get stuck, and then Hazel and the minions just butcher him. The next building goes down. The writing on the wall is pretty much set in stone for this one. It's just a matter of closing up the game. Which, it is still quite early in the game, so it can be a little hard to close it up. But unless something dramatic happens on the enemy team, they're kind of just in a perpetually losing situation right now. So HKS had the Infernal, but I just happened to move out of the way, and the combo from Hyzilla just instantly kills him. I got a little bit of damage in, but it didn't make a difference. I couldn't even see Q in there, and I'm pretty sure that was the case in the game too, where I just couldn't even see him underneath all the bulbous shapes. Now, we're going to kind of hang around here, but there really isn't much point because we don't have the minions or the damage to really do anything to the castle at this stage. So we're kind of just like waiting for people to come out and get themselves killed, but generally they're not going to do that. But if they do even step slightly out of line, then they will die. There's no getting away from us at all. The slow poison and Frostova is going to kill any one of them, especially with High Zealot throwing damage onto them. With a full mana pool, Q might be able to get away with the help of Drunken Haze, but not when he is being bombed on top of it. Meanwhile, Ricky just has some assorted units. So Ricky, it feels like Ricky has been in the same spot for like the last half an hour. He finally has enough money he can get an axe. But it's very possible if he's ever left a check for the axe, I've just been taking it. Loli died. Again, I can't even see him on the minimap. I'm assuming he died over here. So they're rebuilding their shit, but there's a chance that they might have died initially. You really don't want to do that when the upgraded minions are attacking them, but some of the damage got split here, so... Oh, that's kind of interesting. Their spell damage actually affects the buildings. It's just a very low amount of damage, so... It's not really a big deal. It's just kind of funny. I think they're one of the only spells in the game that still affect buildings. Ricky has some peasants over here that are repairing. And we kind of just moved back into their base. Entangle unfortunately goes nowhere, but between the crit and the other damage, Q just dies. So we're just going to come back and just kill their base. Which, my base damage is not really nuclear level, so it takes a little while to do that. It's kind of crazy, like they had enough money to rebuy all these right away, and they've already had to rebuy them a couple times. So I was really surprised by that, and it kind of showed that they really didn't have the opportunity to spend that money and get items. And now they're having to do that just to kind of like delay the game. That's probably more significant than just outright losing the buildings, is that we completely deny them actually getting any items on top of it with the money that they had amassed to this point. And at this stage, I'm well more than strong enough to just tank half their defenses and kill them. We just, again, are not really quite in a position to actually finish off the castle at this stage. What we need to do is go into the other lanes and kill the minions as they pop in the other lanes to hard push them. But I don't really deal ambient damage that much, just mostly through the Doomguard, so... it's kind of like up to Hyzilla to do that, but he actually went back. So I'm kind of just taking advantage of the what minions we do have spilling over here to kind of tickle those down as they sort of tank this. HKS is probably never going to get any items in this game. He is never going to reach the point where all that scaling stuff he has is really going to help that much. Now, it is a little dangerous at this moment because that Loli's going to be back soon. And Drunken Haze does nerf me quite a bit. So I'm just kind of like keeping my distance here, just killing minions. I am taking a lot of damage from my own. It was actually my own Rain of Fire that was doing a lot. And then Philoli came back up and I died to Infernal. I think I did more damage to myself than any of them did, other than maybe the minion damage, because the Rain of Fire was hitting me and dealing a lot. I knew it did friendly fire, but I think I just had a brain fart at that point and I misclicked where I was going to go. And I ended up dealing a massive amount of damage just to myself. And then I got stuck on top of their castle from the slow. They just ignore the gold coins. Ricky is perilously close to dying a few times here. Perilously close to dying. There is a blast staff there. So Hyzela does have a bong. I'm presuming he's going to buy a second one here. He actually got a ring of protection. He buys a head barrel, so he wanted to be a bit more damaging. H-Kiss, or a bit more tanky rather. H-Kiss, Ricky buys an axe. Holy shit, I got really confused in all that. So I did finally upgrade Doom a little bit. If you look at our stats, my CS didn't really go up that much at all. Tied with hero kills and High Zealot. Loli has picked up quite a lot of shit. I presume it was all of his money that went into buying the buildings. I'm pretty sure that's what happened, because he's pretty much where all the money would be. But it takes us like really overextending at this point to actually be in threat of dying. So I thought I was gonna go up there, but I think I saw the upgraded minions down here. So I wanted to see if I could make something happen. So out comes the slow. It looks like I get stuck on the ward. The ward actually blocked me. And there was chain lightning. HKS actually started getting offensive spells because he knew that he kind of needed it at that point. So the word cockblock was really funny, but Q got way too thirsty chasing me. And I knew High Zealot was coming and he just kind of killed him instantly. And then it's just, we're right back in the position we were a few minutes ago. I'm not any tankier, but the level 3 Doomguard does do more damage, have more stats. They deal chaos damage, so it's a little bit. HKS actually has Chain Death Coil on top of Chain Lightning, so he's actually changed his build quite a bit at this point. But he doesn't have the mana regeneration to really facilitate it. So it will help, but it's a little too late, really. Bottom is also just getting ambiently pushed, and it's very possible that Loli will die here. There is a possibility, but not. Maybe it's getting away now. Okay, it's very close. We're just kind of sitting here waiting as HKS kills the minions. They kind of like stutter step in because of that movement limit on Warcraft 3. I feel like what you could do is you could make... Warcraft 3 has an increased player count, right? I believe. You could make each wave its own player. Because I'm pretty sure that limit is per player. And that would help with that. So the spell damage definitely hurts. I'm not tanky enough to take a bunch of high-level spells over and over again with spell damage. Even without spell damage, a couple hits will deplete a lot of my health, so it's better just to back off and be safe in that case. Meanwhile, Ricky is down here with a single raider. I think he has charm or something. He's just acquired an army. What a weird special ability to get. Can Q get him? Cock blocked by minions. He gets away again. Absolutely felted. How can he keep getting away with it? Oh, but now he's stuck. Man, if Q realized that Ricky went in the... Oh, no, he's gone! This is disgusting. That was wretched. Holy shit. There's coin. I didn't even notice those coins. I don't think I ever looked there. Those coins will be there until the end of time. And now Thyloli is gonna die, just like so. There was an exchange. If there was kill bounty in this from having killed players like in League, then it's literally just trading money like in League. I waited for HKS to come up here just so I could butt fuck him with cripple and slow. He literally just stops, but he actually got blink. So between blink and infernal, it looks like he's gonna maybe get away. I did have the endurance or off of the item, but his is higher level and he has blink, so he escapes, unfortunately. I got a second head brawl, but I still took quite a bit of damage from him. I don't have a way to actually regenerate health. I never took any kind of healing, so if I did take healing wave instead of devotion aura or something like that, or even brilliance aura at this stage, and took a regeneration item like a mask, I would probably be just unkillable for their team at this point. 420 smoke weed. As far as the upgrades are concerned, we're still at 3-3. I feel like because there's like a chunk of upgrades after 3. There's a big hurdle between 3 and 4. I feel like with how often we've been killing the creep camps, it's really surprising we didn't hit 4 at this point, but we might be really close to it. I thought Lolly got murdered by High Zealot again. No, the two are going down. I mean, you can see the replay. It's pretty much the end. To me, this game was just a simple, straight up. They didn't punish Ricky enough. They didn't really have the tools to get at High Zealot. But even if they killed High Zealot, like, they couldn't control me really at all. Only Thyloli was really a threat to me until the very end, where HKS could actually start dealing damage. They were put behind early on and just continually went further behind. It just, like, to me, it was like Q had very little effect on the game. On top of the fact Q died so many times trying to kill Ricky, right? And he wasn't ever actually able to kill him. But it's also like Q couldn't do anything about waves. Like Cold Arrow and Mana Shield aren't going to help you kill aren't going to help you kill waves any faster. Like he to me was kind of like a support, but it was hard for him to really support anyone. Again, you hit these groups where it's 3v3 and like that kind of composition, it shows completely. I mean, he has 3 kills and HKS has 0, but I'm sure most of those kills are just Ricky like suiciding himself. Meanwhile, he had less creep kills than me by over 2-fold, and they were pushed the entire game, right? So he kind of really struggled with it. And when we look at the resources, we can see that his gold mine is actually higher than mine. Again, I don't know how these numbers are calculated, but High Zealot should be a lot higher than me, and Thyloli should be way higher than me. There was a small amount of gold trading, but otherwise not really that much at all. So it was kind of one of those cases where it was like, if HKS switched to spells sooner, that could have helped. But the fact they had to spend so much gold to rebuild their base and just immediately lost it anyways, that really put them so far behind on money. Again, I think all that money was actually Thyloli, because he never traded back and forth, and he was the one with the lion's share of CS and kills on their team, because until the very end, he was the only one with offensive spells. So all his money went into getting buildings instead of like getting more spell damage. And I just don't think he has the finesse to really handle that kind of a high volatility situation. We have to be really, really careful not to get caught by any of the numerable slows or stuns, because you're so squishy and you have to be constantly like tickling and playing the delay game. We see that a lot where I have to play a caster and it's like one moment of thirst just gets you killed instantly. They really weren't in a position to punish High Zealot that much. They really depended on Thyloli to be able to punish High Zealot for not having anything defensive. But since I was usually around High Zealot towards the later half of the game, he had to put himself in an intentionally bad situation, and at best he could really like maybe hope for a trade. But usually what happened is that High Zealot initiated on him and just killed him, right? Like we saw that several times at the end. So it's just kind of a rough spot, and you can kind of think of it almost as like a team skill imbalance too. But I feel like if Q had went more damage oriented, they could have delayed long enough for him and HKS to become more threatening. I wasn't exactly a powerhouse of damage at the end. I was just kind of like a mix, just, you know, like a true bruiser archetype. But Q couldn't threaten me really at all. He could slow me down and make me miss a few times. HKS was starting to deal damage to me towards the end, but didn't have the extra spell damage or survivability. If it was HKS and Thyloli able to focus on me, then they could probably kill me fairly reliably. But with High Zealot there, it just wasn't going to happen, right? They were not going to sustain us. So they needed the time to scale up and get items. But at that stage in the game, they weren't going to get to that point. They had no way to control the creeps anymore at all. They couldn't do the camps anymore at all. And fighting me and High Zealot in the lane was just, like, we could 2v3 them very easily. I mean, Ricky wasn't even there for most of the time. So it was just at the stage where I was just too fat, too dangerous, and High Zealot was too far ahead for them to really come back at that point. And they had to really coordinate it, which when only HCast was even changing his build, and Thyloli kind of just does his own thing, and Q just kind of does his own thing, it's kind of hard to really coordinate. But I don't know. On one hand, I think they had the tools to make it work. On the other, the tools that they had did require coordination, and if you really require coordination, then this is not really going to happen, right? So I didn't really feel like anything was particularly egregious for the balance at this stage. It was kind of just like, to me, this was more about a compositional kind of thing, and maybe even like a skill difference kind of thing too. Because High Zealot kind of just like knows, you know, ambiently where to be and what to do, and I kind of just, you know to like stick around him, and we just kind of like stick together. Whereas many times that Q died, there were really avoidable overextensions, right? So I overextended as well in this and died a couple times due to that. Both times hanging around in places I really shouldn't have been, but those deaths didn't even impact the match at all. So they just weren't in a position at either of those times to really do much about it, right? I think that more people need to kill Ricky, though.